The man who looked inside our minds. Have you ever said something strange, then quickly corrected yourself and laughed, saying, "Oops, I didn't mean that"? Sigmund Freud would have smiled and said, "Oh, but you did. That was your unconscious talking." Freud was the first person to seriously suggest that we all carry secret thoughts, buried memories, and deep emotions that shape the way we act, even if we don't realize it. Today, terms like ego, repression, inner child, slip of the tongue, and even talk therapy all come from him. Some see Freud as a genius. Others say he was too wild with his theories. But no one can deny this. Freud forever changed the way we think about the human mind. This is the story of Sigmund Freud, a boy full of questions, a doctor who listened differently, and a thinker who opened up a whole new world inside of us. Sigmund Freud was born in 1856 in a small town called Freiburg in what is now the Czech Republic. He came from a Jewish family with little money, but big hopes for their son. When he was 4 years old, the family moved to Vienna, Austria, a city that would shape Freud's entire life. Even as a child, Sigmund was unusually smart. He loved to read, study, and observe people. He was especially interested in how people thought and felt, and why they sometimes behaved in strange ways. At school, he stood out. He learned several languages and always scored at the top of his class. He later decided to study medicine, not because he wanted to treat broken bones or infections, but because he wanted to understand the most mysterious part of the body, the mind. As a young doctor, Freud began working with patients who had unusual problems, things like sudden blindness, paralysis, or fainting. Yet physically, they were healthy. No medical explanation. These people weren't making it up. Something real was happening to them. But what? Freud had an idea. What if these symptoms weren't coming from the body at all, but from the mind? He worked closely with another doctor, Joseph Breuer, and together they treated a famous patient named Anna O. She had all kinds of mysterious symptoms. But when she started talking about her painful memories and feelings, she began to feel better. Freud called this the talking cure. Today, we call it therapy. This was a turning point. Freud realized that people often carry emotional pain from the past, and when they try to bury it, the pain finds another way to come out, like through physical symptoms or anxiety. He began exploring this idea more deeply. He believed that we have a hidden world inside us, a part of the mind we are not aware of, that holds all our fears, shame, desires, and memories. He called it the unconscious. Freud believed the mind was like an iceberg. The part you see, the conscious mind, is just a tiny piece above water. But below the surface is something much bigger, the unconscious. To explore this hidden world, Freud developed a method called psychoanalysis. He would ask patients to lie on a couch, relax, and speak freely. Say whatever came to their mind, no matter how strange or silly it sounded. This was called free association. He also paid close attention to dreams, believing they were full of hidden meanings. For example, if someone dreamed of climbing a mountain, Freud might ask, "What do you think that mountain represents?" To him, dreams were like puzzles, filled with clues from the unconscious. In 1900, Freud published a groundbreaking book called The Interpretation of Dreams. In it, he wrote one of his most famous lines, "Dreams are the royal road to the unconscious." Freud believed that if we understand our dreams, we can understand ourselves. One of Freud's most controversial ideas was this: our childhood experiences shape us more than we know, especially things we don't remember clearly. He believed that deep emotions like jealousy, fear, and love often begin in childhood. And if those feelings are not processed in a healthy way, they can create emotional problems later in life. For example, Freud noticed that many adults had issues that could be traced back to how they felt about their parents. This led him to develop ideas like the Oedipus Complex. which suggested that young boys go through a phase where they feel both love and rivalry toward their mothers and fathers. Today, not everyone agrees with Freud's exact theories, but the core idea that childhood deeply affects adult life is widely accepted. The ID, ego, and superego. To explain how our minds work, Freud came up with a model of 3 parts. 1. The ID. This is the wild, instinctive part of us. It wants pleasure now. It doesn't care about rules or consequences. It's like a little kid screaming, "I want it." 2. The superego. This is the voice of morality, rules, and guilt. It tells us what we should do based on what we've been taught. 3. The ego. This is the part that balances the other 2. It tries to make smart decisions between what we want and what's right. Imagine you're hungry and see a chocolate bar that's not yours. The ID says, "Take it and eat it." The superego says, "That's stealing. It's wrong." The ego says, "Let's go buy our own." Freud believed that most of our inner struggles come from these parts fighting each other, and that many people suffer because their ego isn't strong enough to manage the battle. Defense mechanisms, the mind's secret. Bodyguards. Freud also explained how the mind protects itself from emotional pain. He called these defense mechanisms. Some common ones include repression, pushing painful memories deep down so we forget them; denial, refusing to accept something unpleasant; projection, blaming others for feelings we can't admit we have; displacement, taking out our anger on someone else; regression, acting like a child when things get tough. These defenses are not bad. They help us survive hard times. But Freud warned that using them too much can keep us stuck in old pain. Fame, criticism, and controversy. Freud's ideas were bold. Some people called him brilliant. Others said he was obsessed with sex in childhood. He did believe that sexual energy, what he called libido, was a powerful force in human life. He talked openly about things like desire, taboo thoughts, and repressed urges at a time when no one else dared. Because of this, he was often attacked by critics. But Freud didn't back down. He continued writing, teaching, and building a circle of followers across Europe. Some of his students, like Carl Jung and Alfred Adler, later broke away and started their own schools of thought. Freud didn't mind the disagreement. He once said, "Being entirely honest with oneself is a good exercise." He believed in going deep, even if it made people uncomfortable. Freud's final years and legacy. As Freud grew older, his health declined. He battled mouth cancer for many years, caused by heavy smoking. Yet even in pain, he kept working. In 1938, when the Nazis took over Austria, Freud, who was Jewish, had to flee to London with his family. He died there in 1939, at the age of 83, but his work lived on. Today, many of Freud's original theories have been updated, changed, or even challenged. But his influence is everywhere. Therapy became normal, in large part because of him. Talking about childhood trauma and mental health is now common. The idea of the unconscious mind is used in psychology, advertising, art, and film. Freud opened a door that can never be closed, a door to our inner world. Conclusion: what Freud taught us about ourselves. Sigmund Freud once said, "Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility." He wasn't interested in making people comfortable. He was interested in the truth, even if it was painful. He taught us that we are more than what we appear to be. Behind every action, every slip of the tongue, every strange dream, there's a story, a memory, a hidden emotion waiting to be discovered. Freud's message was clear. If you want to understand yourself, look within. Your mind holds the answers. And maybe, just maybe, that's the bravest journey we can ever take. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Let's keep exploring the